there everybody, American Phoenix here, and I decided to try something new for the channel. I've never done a series before, and I've never really shown a cost breakdown on my cooking. So I decided, let's do a limited budget challenge. This is $30 and under. All the groceries ended up costing $29.04. So it's not always going to be as flashy, but it will be good, wholesome, and sustaining food. And it's enough for you to go ahead and work all day on. I know because I do it. So I hope that you guys enjoy, and thank you for coming along this journey with me. And I love every one of you who's going to sit down and watch this. I truly do. Let's get after it. We're getting ready to cook breakfast. And breakfast today is going to be nice and simple. It's going to be chorizo and eggs. It's going to be, I'm thinking bologna and tortillas. But we're going to make them ourselves. Now, full disclosure, this is not how they make tortillas in Mexico. I've been to Mexico enough times. So this is going to be kind of the quick American method, but they're still going to taste delicious, and it's still pretty much the same process. We're substituting butter for lard, and this is a different kind of flour than would normally be used, but this was the cheapest flour that I could find. And tortillas, very, very simple, very easy meal. All you need is water, flour, a little bit of butter or fat, lard is generally used, a bowl, a rolling pin, and I'm going to be using just a little bit of salt. Tortillas in their simplest form is just a flatbread. So what I'm doing right now is I just boiled some water, and I have my butter in a bag, and I'm just letting that get melted down. Otherwise, it's just not going to mix as well, and it's going to just chop up. And that's really not what you want. You want this to be a very homogeneous dough. So while that's melting, let's just take a minute to talk. So the reason I decided that I wanted to do these videos is because a lot of people right now are scared and struggling, and maybe you don't know how to cook. And look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm the world's greatest cooking instructor. I'm not by any means. But I know what it's like to be poor, and I know what it's like to really struggle. So I wanted to help out and do what I can. I love to cook. Cooking's always been a big passion of mine. So if I can take a little bit of the stuff that I've learned throughout the years and translate that on to you guys, well, I absolutely love the fact that I can do that. So I hope that you guys enjoy, and this will be ready in just a few minutes. So when that's nice and melted, we'll get back. I'll go ahead and change the camera angle up so you guys can get a better view of what I'm doing, and we'll get into it. And this is the first step in breakfast of day one. All right, people, let's go ahead and get this taken care of now. Our butter has melted just beautifully, okay? So we've got that all nice and melted. We're going to set that off to the side. Now, I used the hot water to melt the bowl. Okay, I had this up to a rolling boil. And now that it's, calmed down a little bit, we're going to go ahead and just add some flour to this. Now, I don't use an exact measurement when it comes to this. I just, you kind of have to know what you're looking for. I'm sorry, but that's just kind of the truth in my style of cooking. I am not a professional chef by any means. I'm really not. So we can go ahead and add a good amount of flour to that. And no, that's not all, but I don't like adding butter to just water. I think it looks nasty, so I'm going to add a little bit of flour in there first. Now, just go ahead and you get yourself a fork or something like that, and you're just going to start mixing it up. And there you go. Now, once you get the initial mixing in, there's going to be some clumps right now. We're not trying to get rid of those. We'll get rid of those later. Now, just add a little bit more flour. Make sure you're scraping the sides, that way you don't get a lot of buildup. So I learned how to cook when I was younger because my mom left when I was 9 years old. She left. It was me, my dad, and my older brother. So my dad worked all the time, so me and my brother kind of had to learn to take care of ourselves and to take care of the house. So we learned how to cook, and honestly, we love to cook. It's something that we all have a lot of passion for, even though we cook separate styles. You know, my dad, he swears by Kansas City style barbecue. And don't get me wrong, Kansas City is probably my favorite, you know, quote unquote style of barbecue. But I like my style of barbecue too. So I don't like to be set on just one style of barbecue or cooking. I think that if you're going to say that you know how to cook, you need to be able to cook a little bit of everything. You know, I'm not saying that you have to master every single dish that there is out there, but you need to learn how to cook a little bit of something. You know, even if it's just being able to follow the instructions on a box, you know, realistically. All right, so we're looking good right now. All right, and that's come together pretty fair. I'm gonna add just a little bit more flour to this because it's still sticking really bad, and that's going to happen. It's going to stay sticky, but you want to try to eliminate the most amount of water as you can. You know, you want it to be able to come together into individual balls. So we're doing that right now. And now comes the fun part, is we're going to go ahead and put on our gloves. Yes, I recommend wearing gloves when you cook. You know, because it's just one of those things. It's like, I'm a truck driver. So for me, putting on gloves is a really big bonus because of the fact that I don't always have access to running water. So I use hand sanitizer a lot. And that's good. It does, you know, it does the job for you. But it's not something that you always want to be doing. You know, it's really not good for your skin long term to be doing it that way. So I like using gloves when I cook. Yes, that's a lot of flour. I'll show you why here in a second. But I like using gloves when I cook because it keeps it so I don't have any diesel particulates or just anything from the road on my gloves or on my food. You know, the gloves are keeping them out. They're disposable and they're cheap. So that's why I like to do it personally. You can do it any way you want. If you don't choose to use gloves, that's fine. You don't have to. So the reason why I used a lot of flour right there is you have to knead this dough, and it's going to be sticky. As you can see, it's stuck to my glove a little bit. And we're going to reuse this flour when we're rolling out the tortillas, so that way we don't have them sticking to my TV tray here. And so nothing's going to be wasted, not really, and it all serves its purpose. So while we're just sitting here kneading and getting this all together, I'll be honest, I like kneading with one hand, you know, in a little bowl like this, just because there's really not enough room to be kneading. And that'll happen. You'll create a little bit of a mess. Don't worry, it's easy to clean up. But anyways, what I was saying is my brother and I love to cook. My dad loves to cook too. You know, it's a passion that we all share, that we all hold and have. So it's just something I was very fortunate in. But I understand that a lot of people don't have the same kind of passion that we do. And that's totally fine. You know, you don't have to have a huge passion for cooking to be a good cook. You know, that's something that I feel is kind of, a lot of people don't realize, because they see shows on TV or on the internet and they think like, wow, this person is so skilled, I could never hope to be on their level. Well, you know, there is not really any truth to that. You can learn to cook like Gordon Ramsay. You can learn to cook like, you know, Emeril Lagasse. You can learn these techniques. So really, just don't ever let yourself feel like you can't do it just because you might not have all the skill. I don't have all the skill. You know, I really don't. But I like to cook. And that's really what counts in this world, I think. If you like to do something, you don't necessarily have to be the best at it. You just have to like to do it and be willing to learn and improve your skills. Well, so this is coming together the way that I want it to now. Okay. There we go. It's coming together real nice. And it's not really sticky anymore. And look at that, we used up pretty much all the flour in the bowl. And now we're just going to go ahead, once we finish kneading this, we're just going to go ahead, make it into a ball. Okay. Make it into a ball. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to let this sit for a minute. Okay. So that'll be fine to sit for a minute. We can take our gloves off. And personally, I just reuse these same gloves. Well, and it depends. Like if I'm doing this, if I'm making tortillas, then I will just go ahead and reuse the gloves. If I'm going from doing meat to tortillas to rice, I generally use separate gloves for each item because even though it's all going in my mouth, I don't want it to get cross-contaminated by any means. So we're going to go ahead and wipe this down real quick. All right. And go ahead and grab, this is just some aluminum foil. I usually use, it's kind of funny, I can get my hands on the large things of saran wrap on occasion, but right now I'm not able to do that. So this is just what we're working with. It's not going to be the most beautiful in the world, but they'll work just fine. So we're going to go ahead and slide that one up. We're going to grab one more. That over right there. Because you got to understand, what I am trying to do here by putting this down, and it's the same thing with the saran wrap when I get it. Like I said, I don't have access to running water as a truck driver. So we have to make do with what we have the best that we can. So this costs, the saran wrap cost me $5. So is it worth $5 worth of cleaning to use? I think so. Alrighty, so we could let the dough sit for a little longer if we wanted to, or it doesn't really matter. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and move the flour over here. I'll move my hot pot's got to stay there. Okay. Now there is one last step, and you can do this to the dry ingredients, or you can do it here. It doesn't really matter as much, but just make a little well, put a little touch of salt in. You do not want much, because remember, this is supposed to be a neutral flavor. Okay, your tortillas, while delicious, are not supposed to be the star of a dish. So I like adding a little bit of salt in, just a little bit, mostly because, well, where I live in Arizona, we add salt to everything. Why? Because if you don't, you're going to cramp. It's important to make sure that you always get all your electrolytes. So if you see me adding salt somewhere where you might think that's a little bit strange, I'm generally adding it just because we add salt to almost everything. Okay, there we go. Now we got that done. So we're going to take and add just a little bit of flour here. Just a touch. Okay. Move that around just a little bit. Take a ball of our dough. And this is 100% up to you on what size balls that you like to do, how thick you like to roll your tortillas. All right, it's 100% on you. So now we take our rolling pin, which if you notice, there's aluminum foil on my rolling pin. Again, I don't always have access to running water. So we're gonna go ahead and just start rolling this out. You move it, you turn it, you flip it, because you want this to come out as much into a circle as possible, because, well, that's a tortilla shape. And sometimes you do that, but you don't tell anybody about it. I mean, unless you're me and you're putting this on video while rambling. Now, if you notice, while I'm doing this, the tortilla is coming back towards me. That's not a problem as long as you make sure that you have a good non-sticky surface. That's why, the aluminum foil, saran wrap, what have you, it all works, and it just keeps your work area clean. And my aluminum foil is coming off. Not a big deal. So, we're just going to keep rolling this. And look, like I said in the beginning, I'm not a professional cook. I'm not. So, my tortillas do not come out as well as my grandmother's did. But again, that's... Sorry about that, folks. Had a little bit of an issue on my end of things, but we're back. So right now, we're going ahead and we're cooking those tortillas that you saw me making. I ended up getting 4 tortillas out of that initial dough ball. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. Now, this is a medium-low pan, no oil or grease in there. See, a mistake that a lot of people often make is they think that you cook your tortillas twice. You don't. You cook them this initial time, and then when you cook them for your meal, quote-unquote cook, you're toasting them. You're making them warm, you're making them crispy, what have you, but this is the time you're cooking them. And this should be a very slow process. Okay, you're wanting, ideally it's going to take 3 to 4 minutes, possibly even longer than that per tortilla, because you're cooking the butter and the flour and everything to make it so it does not have a raw taste anymore. So we're doing that right now, and yeah, that tortilla turned out a little wonky. Again, not a professional chef. I'm going to keep reiterating that for a little bit here. And we're going to just go ahead and get all this done. Now, this is the most time-consuming part of this meal. And I'm doing this, well, for 2 reasons, really. 1, to display a little bit of skill, but 2, to show you that this is relatively cheap. That package of butter cost me $1.50. The flour cost me $1.50. The water, we'll just say the water's free because most people have water in their house. So for $3 or so, you could make a lot of tortillas. And that's just plenty of extra calories and extra food for you to eat. And tortillas are delicious and they're very filling. So we're going to go ahead and just finish cooking these up. And then when we get done with that, I'll show you guys the next step. Tortillas are done being cooked finally. And now we're on to frying the bologna. I cut it up a little bit so that way I could spread it out over different tortillas and just have a very filling meal. This is not a meal that costs a lot of money to make. Not by any means. Figure the package of bologna, this bar S right here, cost me like $1. The eggs are about $1.50. The chorizo is $1. And the tortillas, well, being that I bought the whole thing of flour, that was about $2. So, and I'll get multiple uses out of each of these items. So if you actually break it down, 2 eggs, 2 pieces of bologna, some tortillas that I made, which maybe used a cup of flour, and the chorizo. I mean, we're talking 4 to 5 meals out of just this. So for what, a $7, $6 investment, something like that, you're getting several good meals out of it. So it doesn't really take a lot to cook food that's delicious and that will keep you going. Now, I don't generally add fat when I'm cooking my bologna because I find that the bar S has usually got enough fat in it that I don't need to, and I like mine a little bit darker than most people probably do. So we're just going to go ahead and let this fry up, and I'll be back and show you what we do with the eggs. Tortillas are cooked. The bologna is nice and cooked, as you can see here. Like I said, I like mine a little bit darker. So right now we're doing the chorizo and eggs, and I took a little bit of this pork chorizo and you just squeeze that right into your pan. I like to flatten it out a little bit so it has more surface area. Now this is a very, very greasy product. As you can see in the bottom there, it's actually got the grease rendering right now. That's important. You want this to happen before you put your eggs in. Otherwise, you're just going to get chunks of, well, probably cold chorizo, and nobody wants that. So we're going to go ahead and let this render. We've lowered our temperature down a little bit, and while this is going to go ahead and cook out, So we're just chilling right now, relaxing. You know, this doesn't have to be a stressful process. I feel like a lot of people get too stressed out when they cook. Cooking should be fun. You know, even when it's something like this. I mean, my tripod broke, so I'm sitting here holding my camera. And you know what? I'm still just having a good time. Because cooking should be fun. If you're not having fun doing a certain style of cooking, change your style. Do something else. Learn how to sous vide. Learn how to barbecue. There's 1,000,001 different ways to cook out there. So find one that you enjoy and rock with it. And right now, we're just going to go ahead and let this keep rendering out, and I'll be back when it's time to add the eggs. Alrighty, and we're back. So that was, you know, less than a second for you guys. That was a few minutes of worth of rendering fat for me. And sorry I didn't let you guys see the cool, you know, egg cracking and putting it in there like a lot of other people do. I realized, yeah, without a tripod, I can't really be doing that. So the eggs are already cracked, and we're just going to go ahead and just mix that up. And once you get it mixed up, just let it sit for a minute. You don't have to sit here and mess with it. You don't have to sit here and touch on it or anything. Just let it sit for a minute and cook. You're just trying to get those eggs to set. And sometimes people, they'll actually pre-scramble their eggs before they add them in. I don't really like to do that. I feel that it just wastes time, and it makes it so what you're eating really isn't identifiable anymore. Whereas doing it this way, you're going to get plenty of chorizo taste, but you're also going to get the eggs. So once you see that your eggs are starting to set, just go in there and mess them around a little bit. You're essentially cooking scrambled eggs with some chorizo added in. Okay, so you got that. And I find personally that chorizo has got enough salt content in it that it just does not need added salt. Usually when I cook eggs, I'm always adding salt or pepper. It's just not really necessary with this. So once we get this finished up, I'm going to go ahead and just off camera toast up the tortillas. Like I said, that is the second step. You cook the tortillas once, and then you go ahead and you toast them to get them back up to temperature, so that way you're not eating a cold tortilla. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera, and then when I come back in a moment, you guys will actually just be seeing me sitting here eating it. I'll give you the taste. I'll give you a general breakdown. I don't have the exact numbers on me at the moment, but I'll give you a general breakdown of the cost, and we'll go from there. All right, people, we made it. We're here. We finally got the meal done. So for today's meal, just to recap, 2 homemade tortillas. I did end up cooking 4. The other 2 I'll go ahead and save for another meal. And then we have this. I'm sure that does not look very appealing, but I trust and believe me when I say that it's delicious. So that is 2 eggs, maybe an ounce or 2 of chorizo, and 2 slices of bologna. And that, all this is plenty. All right, I'm not going to be cheating. I'm not going to be eating anything else. This is my breakfast. I don't usually have a lunch. If I do, I'll probably just put a little bit of butter on those tortillas. And if I don't, then I'll just save those for another meal, probably either tomorrow's breakfast or dinner tonight. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get down and eat this right now. Now, I do have one little thing. Now, this is my cheat, okay? I didn't spend any money on this, but it is kind of a cheat. So I just got off a vacation. Now, while I was on vacation, I went down to a friend's wedding. Well, we went over to the person who tailored his wife's dress. Turns out she makes hot sauce for a living. I've never tried this before, so I'm going to do it right now on camera. But I do not want this to go bad. So I don't know. Generally, when it comes to canned hot sauce, I know from doing it in the past myself, it either lasts forever or it lasts about a week. And I don't want it to go bad because this was a gift. So we're going to go ahead and pop it right now. And she does the canning herself. Ooh, that smells really good. Alrighty. So I'm just going to, for the sake of this, break off this little weird corner of tortilla. And we're just going to go ahead and dip. Definitely has a lot of good flavor to it. I will be enjoying this with probably every meal. Something that you might have noticed is this meal kind of Mexican oriented. That's because, well, I am part Mexican, but also I grew up in the Southwest. So this is the style of cooking that I know better than any. But as I was saying earlier, learn different styles. It's not all going to be Mexican themed. I mean, there will be more Mexican themed meals throughout. This is probably going to be the breakfast I cook for the week, just because I do enjoy this food. All right. Well, I'm going to quit rambling on so much. I'm going to go ahead. I'll just make up a tortilla so that way you guys can pretty much just see what this meal does look like when it's done. And also, by all means, if you have something like cheese would be a great addition to this. I do have some, but I decided not to add it, just wanted to save a little bit of money on this particular meal. I'm going to be using the cheese later on this week to make Hasselback potatoes, if you've ever had those. Believe it or not, I never have. So we're going to go ahead and try that out for the first time this week. All right, getting a good amount of this hot sauce on, because I genuinely enjoy hot sauce. All righty. So, go ahead now. And it's kind of funny, I do not know the traditional quote-unquote way to fold a burrito. I don't. I just, personally, the way I do it is I take my tortilla, I tuck the tail, and I just fold it over on itself. That's good enough for me. All right, so let's go ahead and give this all a try and see how it meshes together. I would throw down with that even if I wasn't doing a budget challenge right now. That's delicious, and I highly recommend this meal to anybody out there, whether you're struggling or not. Well, I'm going to go ahead and finish up my breakfast here, and I'll be coming back to you guys later when I do dinner. All right, I love you guys. Bye.